and that doesn't happen alone. It is on us to make that happen. To listen to my interview with Senator Schatz, where we talk about his now Holly on the Senate floor, what he'd like to see done on marijuana legalization and student debt cancellation, and the latest on climate change, click the thumbnail right here on the screen, or check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. Thumbnail right here on...
People are just like, let's get on with it. And it is an opportunity.
Hello there, Internet. I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We're off this week, but I wanted to briefly come back to talk to you about something important, and that is rules. Think of them as the bones of a well-functioning society, which I guess makes common sense and good judgment the blood, manners the skin, fortitude the heart, and this show... Specifically, though, I want to talk about rules as outlined in 1997's Air Bud, a movie that is quietly about grief, but is loudly about a dog playing basketball. If you've never seen it, I'm going to show you the moment that our hero, Josh, realises that his dog has an unexpected talent. It's a moment when Josh is very sad, and then this happens.
You could play.
So, the dog scores a basket, grins stupidly, and in that moment, Josh's world changes, and we as an audience are set for a wild ride. The quickest possible explanation of what happens in Air Bud is, it is the story of a dog playing basketball on a team full of children who then wins state. The slightly longer version is that a kid named Josh's father dies, and he tries to fill that void with a dog. The movie generally glides past this point, but the fundamental issue here is that a kid who doesn't have a father tries to replace him with a golden retriever who happens to be good at basketball. Not that good, though, to be honest. He can't dribble or rebound or box out. He's not really a playmaker and has little to no basketball IQ. Really, he's just quite good at shooting. And don't worry, I'm not going to ruin 1997's Air Bud for you. If I wanted to do that, I'd say either that the dog who played him is definitely dead by now, or that it must have been nice to make content before 9/11. That's what I'd say. I'd say one of those things. Dogs die and 9/11 will happen. If you haven't seen Air Bud, then you almost definitely haven't seen the many sequels and spin-offs that it spawned. And while we don't have time to get into the plots of all of them, I do need you to see just how far the franchise ended up straying from its simple sports roots.
These rings have given us some epic powers.
Yeah, they have superpowers now. Point A is a movie where a dog is kind of okay at basketball. Point Z is a movie where that same dog's children are the Avengers, but dogs. Now, we don't actually have time to get into the Zendaya vehicle super buddies. Because again, I need to talk about the original. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, he must get paid extra to do these web exclusives. I don't. And if you're thinking, well, okay, but there must be something in his contract that says he has to produce a certain number of content units per season. There isn't, but I will say I do appreciate your use of the phrase content units. I like it. That is how I think about this show. I'm a material generator who distributes content units designed to occupy your time between now and death. But I'm not talking about Air Bud because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to. Now, even if you're not an Air Bud superfan, you are probably familiar with the oft-cited line about basketball rules that have been repeatedly carried for years.
Checking the rules. Just won't find anything in there that says a dog can't play.
He's right. Ain't no rules in the dog can't play basketball.
Yes, ain't no rule says a dog can't play basketball. And it's both stupid and weirdly true. There is so literally no rule. Anyway, what my main concern is that this is a fundamental rule. Oh no, there's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball. I know, it's definitely unfair to introduce a new player, somebody named as a registered member of the team, let alone when a state championship is on the line. Sorry, but Kevin Durant goes down in a usually in a crucial game. But let's not get to just bring in a random, unsigned, untested additional player. There are no surprise guests in basketball. Isn't that right? Mr. Kevin Durant! Obviously, we didn't get Kevin Durant for this pick. It's the playoffs right now, plus this is a web exclusive about airbud. It would have been insulting us to even ask, but that crucial point, there isn't a rule preventing anyone from playing basketball is the central issue, which is set aside a moment, fellas. Ethics of making it talk about airbud basketball. What do we know about airbud? Based on the game tape is available to us. 2 steals, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 block. That is it. That is his entire box score. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's bad. But is that dog an asset to the firm group team? The showtime typical. Obviously, she's not. So teamwork, cooperation, and ball movement would allow such a distraction to dominate the team's narrative. Again, if Buddy was doing numbers, now if he's putting up 30 to 40 points a night, we're having a very different conversation right now. But he's not, is he? I repeat, 4 field goals. And apart from the steals, he's a complete liability on defense. But there's even a bigger question when it comes to short airbud playing basketball. That is that airbud, crucially, is not Josh's dog. Right? He belongs to Norm Snyder. Josh, the boy with the dead dad, remember, found him. But Buddy was Snively's dog. You have the paperwork to prove it and everything. Before Buddy discovered basketball, Snively included him as part of his act as a birthday party clown. We see this at the start of the film with Snively arriving at a birthday party. Around the same time, it's revealed the film was produced by Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, that's how the movie begins. Anyway, we then see Snively utterly bombing in front of the kids at the party, at which point Buddy tries to salvage the act by catching some right? Everyone had fun. And a not terrible argument could be made that Snively was the one who gave Buddy the fundamental training that resulted in him being able to play basketball in the first place. Snively gets a lot of shit in this film because he's an abusive alcoholic party clown who explicitly hates children and birthdays, but you cannot ignore that he is also the kind of person who can diligently and patiently train a dog to perform party tricks. That's not nothing, is it? Training dogs is hard. And Snively put the work in. Yet, Snively's made lost the dog, who was then retrieved by Josh, the kid whose dad ate it off camera before the movie started. Snively even successfully retrieved Buddy in the middle of the film, but Josh then sneaks into Snively's yard and steals Buddy back. And if you're saying, John, hang on now. If you're saying, John, just stop, listen to me. Snively was an alcoholic, failed birthday party clown who wasn't properly taking care of Buddy, and even though, yes, he had the paperwork documenting proper provenance of the dog, it was obviously receiving much better care through Josh and his family. I hear your point. I really do. It's the movie's point, isn't it? The movie fed you that point, and no disrespect, you ate it up uncritically. Because, for those who don't know, let me tell you how Airbud ends, because it's pretty nuts. This movie about a kid who becomes obsessed with a stolen basketball dog after his dad bites it off screen, insanely does not actually end with a dramatic basketball moment. You would think, knowing everything we know about movies, that it would end with Airbud and the Timberwolves, winning straight, and then cut into credits. But you'd be wrong. Dead wrong. I'm talking Josh's dad dead wrong. Instead, Snively attempts to regain ownership of Buddy even contacting a judge. The judge, in his wisdom, decides two things. One, he will ultimately only make a ruling on this case outside on the lawn, which, sure, I'm not getting into that. But two, on the subject of lawful dog ownership, he is convinced to let the dog decide. So, paperwork be damned, Buddy the dog will decide who he wants to live with, and whoever he chooses will henceforth be his legal permanent owner. Now, predictably, Buddy chooses the boy who has given him nothing but affection and freedom. Snidely, much less predictably, is physically carried off by several cops to jail, which is ridiculous. The legal system does not normally work that fast. The fact that I believe all the movie's producers can attest to firsthand. Look, here is the most reasonable argument I've heard in defence of Josh's ownership of Buddy. Josh is good, Snively is bad, therefore Josh deserves a dog. Okay. But what do we mean when we say that? What deserves? I'm not trying to be controversial here, I'm just forming a logical extraction of moral intention based on following the breadcrumbs left by 1997's Airbud. Airbud loves to position itself as a celebration of rules. There ain't no rule that says a dog can't play basketball. But as long as we're all pretending that rules or the absence of them are the most important thing in the world, how is it that there are rules about dog ownership that it seems Airbud the film is so keen for you to forget? Here's what I'm really trying to say. Rules either matter or they don't. And if you are going to try and throw the spirit of the law in my face, oh, fuck you. Let's definitely talk about that, because suddenly it's subjective, isn't it? And then things get much muddier. Here's a thought exercise for you. Let's tweak some variables, shall we? Let's say the disease Snively suffers from isn't alcoholism, it's diabetes. Let's say Snively has diabetes. Now, should that count against him as a dog owner? Snively shouldn't have Buddy. He's an unsuccessful party clown with diabetes. Is that a good argument? Do you like how that sounds? Here's another variable. Let's say instead of being good at basketball, he absolutely sucks at it. Now, do we now care where Buddy ends up? Where's the line? Does Buddy only deserve a better home if he's good at basketball? And if the answer to that is yes, what does that say about us as a society? I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not mad that the rules won state as a result of Buddy's middling performance, though not to hammer at the point. For field goals. I'm also not mad that Josh got Buddy based on a court ruling that took place outdoors with a judge in an office chair. I'm not even mad that Buddy's real legal owner not only lost his dog, but remember, got physically carted off by police. In one of the most flagrant examples of America's fetish for carceral solutions ever committed to film, I just want to understand the rules. The rules that are supposed to be so foundationally important to the Airbud story. And if you're thinking, John, come on, enough now. Josh lost his plan. Have a heart, guys. I hear you. I do, that's my point. He's reacting from an emotional place. Does he want Buddy? Or is he, like I said 45 minutes ago, just trying to fill the void left by his father? And if so, why on earth are we putting the care and safety of a head dog in the hands of a grieving child? Because there ain't no rule against it? Listen to yourself. Now, the worst thing to happen to movies. No, it isn't. The worst thing to happen to movies is kissing. There's too much kissing in movies. No one likes the sound of it and no one likes mouths. The pandemic was actually great for two reasons. It briefly shut down movies and everyone had to wear masks. In both cases, everyone saw fewer mouths and we were all happier for it. I just find it fascinating that a movie, the sole premise of which hinges on a strict adherence to rules, chooses to discard them so quickly on such a whim. That's all. And yet, you're probably thinking right now, wait, really? That is all? There is no twist here? Oh, why would you waste so much of your time and ours on a web exclusive that's quietly about Airbuds but loudly about nothing? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you specifically why. Because there ain't no rule against it. Thank you so much for watching. I have no idea why you did. We're back on May 1st. Goodbye. There we go. Our main story tonight concerns trucks. Everybody loves them. Kids who like the fact they go honk, honk. Politicians are getting back down. And they're getting up and trying to respect their drivers. Wow. Apparently people like their nice trucks so they can say, I like my cars. And they can make the shit of myself. Trucks are not just the state of reality. Carrying 70% of the tonnage, which is America and the truck. Trucks have luxury cars. Big trucks.
Eat, work, drink, drive. Doesn't move on a truck.
Right. It's pretty upsetting to realise that without trucks, after just a week,
3 days.
sorry, 3 days, 3 days, every produce department in America would go from fully stocked market to all-you-can-eat raccoon buffet. So it's no wonder.
Is facing a massive shortage of truck drivers. Supply chain crisis. Exacerbated by a shortage of truck drivers.
The only time I'm actively looking for this project is if the container ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal. I don't care if the entire global economy collapses. I just want to see that bridge container stopping. Guys, so we don't need to have a quick planning this up with a ship. Say that for a while now, with the shortage. Then actually, guys, that's the problem of driver shortage and all of driver retention. Hundreds of thousands of people have truck drivers every year, but hundreds of thousands also quit. Job turnover for truckers averages over 100%. And in some companies, they're hiring 3 people for a single job over the course of a year. And when a field this important has a level of job satisfaction that low, it sure seems like there is a huge problem. So tonight, let's examine the trucking industry. How drivers make a living, how they often don't, and how companies benefit from the whole legal system. And the first thing to know is, it wasn't always like this. In the 1970s, truck driving was a solid middle-class profession, with trucker culture even becoming trendy through songs like Convoy, movies like Every Which Way But Loose, and TV shows like BJ and the Bear about a trucker and his chimpanzee friend. And you're thinking, that show sounds weird? You don't know the half of it.
BJ was a happy-go-lucky trucker who would haul anything for a price.
You are the guy, aren't you? The guy who hauls anything anywhere for $1.50 a mile, no questions asked?
But this time, his cargo was 11 young women escaping from a white slavery gang. Roadblocks mean nothing to BJ McKay, an ex-POW helicopter pilot from Vietnam. Rod Akins, a Betty Pfizer star. BJ and the Bears at Wednesday night in Central Mountain.
Yes, the true golden age of television right there. This whole medium peaked in 1979 and we would never see the mountaintop again. That promo started with a driver living with a chimpanzee, and it escalated so fast, Casey Kasem didn't have time to mention the chimp. Where did it come from? Was the chimp also in Vietnam? Why is it called Bear? Who cares? There's no time. It's in with shooting guns, strong helicopters, and other helicopters now. Those details are just going to have to wait. Every year, the Emmy should release a statement saying all awards go to BJ and the Bear again. Try harder next year, TV. But the truth is, truck driving was genuinely a decent job. But that began to change in 1980 when Jimmy Carter signed the Motor Carrier Act, deregulating the market in an attempt to lower prices for them. That set off a race to the bottom in cutting wages among trucking companies. 40 years later, the base compensation for long-haul truck drivers is estimated to be down to 50% in real terms. And there are three key problems with the way the industry is currently set up that we're going to look at. The first is how they are paid. Because most long-haul drivers are paid by the mile instead of by the hour. Raise an obvious question like what about when trucks are waiting till unload and they really. For the most part, they don't. This is a huge sticking point for trucking. If you ever go to trucking coaches, it's absolutely sure. You will see a lot of videos like this.
Why do you have a job for 3 hours, 3.5 hours up at this point? Really should
I can't help it that that you call and tell him. I ain't got you don't give a damn if you ain't got no gun. You call and tell him.
Yeah, it's a very surprising. The waiting time, that is, not the fact that they've got that time. That is probably important, because if they could do that, they would never stop texting me shit like, I'm just sure it's true, and this is bloody, I'm just sort of spoiled. And you after the gun is waiting, you're incentivized to try and make up for that time. Once you want to focus, you can make sense. I've got paid for much about AT&T. I tried cramming as many AT&T jobs as possible. I think the opposite like AT&T jobs because the more Johnny burns, the more Johnny burns. But this can be a real safety problem for your developers.
We're not confused. We don't have an off button. The thing this does do is it forces you to get up and go if you're tired. It forces you to get up and go if you don't feel good. And it's not about running 24 hours a day. It's about making a common sense decision on how you feel, how the road conditions are, whether or not you want to run through rush hour, etc., etc., etc.
Look, there are some jobs you can absolutely do if you don't feel good. Like this one, for instance. I feel like shit all the time. Look at me. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Because this test 80 miles an hour, so the consequences of my poor job performance are not likely to kill anyone. And when these rigid rules bump up against unpredictable work hours, drivers are put in an impossible position. Take this driver, whose company made him take his 10-hour break during the day when he couldn't sleep, and then found himself driving exhausted at night. And when he called his dispatcher to say that he felt unsafe to drive, just watch how badly the call went.
Hey man, we got a bit of a problem, dude. I'm starting to fall asleep going down the road here.
But get a load of this. The king of the dispatchers, instead of telling him to just get some rest, hot potato Abe from one dispatcher to another. Each of them with the same advice.
Just coffee and then we don't have a choice on the day. Either get coffee, walk around the truck, do something.
I already did that earlier, man.
Let's go get some fresh air. What is it, about 10 degrees outside?
Yeah.
That'll wake you right up, right?
I'm telling you, I'm not safe to drive.
Okay, well then we don't have a choice on this. That's not how we work here, KB.
I say I'm not gonna hurt anybody out here.
Well, you know what? You don't need to jump to that. That's dramatic. I don't need this morning, right?
I don't think that this morning. That is a hell of a statement. I've only heard that dramatic shit until at least 1 p.m. It's like the mug says, don't confront me with the potentially lethal consequences of my reckless decision-making until after I've had my coffee. So trains end up getting squeezed between regulations and the companies that they drive for, and at no point in the process are their own feelings or needs taken into account. And that is not the only way that they get squeezed, because the second explicit is the relationship between drivers and trucking companies. Many carriers classify drivers not as employees, but as independent contractors. Well, there are some to whom that label should be used, those who genuinely have
I don't have time to do
different loads
Sorry.
and whomever they want. The fact is, many companies misclassify drivers as independent who work exclusively for them and whose day-to-day lives they fundamentally control. And there are obvious reasons for companies to do this, as this trucker explains.
I am not classified as an employee. I am classified as an independent contractor, but I have very, very little control over the success or failure of my company.
Despite his so-called independence, Pryor works exclusively for shippers, which doles out his daily routes. He's seen his paychecks dwindle and has none of the protections he would get as an employee.
As long as we're independent contractors, they don't have to cover benefits. They don't have to cover sick days, bereavement, leave time, holiday pay. It just saves the company money.
Yeah, of course this is attractive for companies. They don't even have to give you time off when a family member dies. So unless your nana's wake has been holding from the keys of complex Wawa, you're probably not going to be able to attend it. And it actually tends to even agree with what we just said. It also allows companies to avoid paying payroll taxes, workers' comp, and unemployment insurance, as well as the minimum wage. And if that wasn't enough, being an independent contractor means all the costs and risks of truck ownership get pushed onto the driver. Just watch as this former trucker explains exactly what was left of her household earnings once she and her husband had accounted for all their costs.
We made $150,000, right, in a year. That sounds great, right? That's like good money. We paid $100,000 in fuel. Okay, so right there, now I made $50,000. But I didn't really because, you know, you get an oil change every month, so it's $300 a month. You still have to do all the maintenance. We had a motor blowout, right? $13,000. Right? I know. I mean, I choke up a little just thinking about it because it was, and it was $13,000, and we were off work for 2 weeks. So by the end of the year, with that $150,000, by the end of the year, we made about $22,000.
Yeah, and look, I am no CPA, despite face glasses and insatiable horniness for numbers that strongly implies otherwise, but that seems like a pretty shitty bottom line. And while most of the drives that you've seen so far tonight have been in long haul, this independent contractor problem also very much applies to those at either end of the shipping process too, like port truckers, where one study estimated 2/3 of them are misclassified, and also last mile drivers. Those are the people who drive box trucks or sprinter vans to deliver stuff directly to your door. You know how you see FedEx ground trucks? Those aren't actually FedEx employees, despite every visual indication to the contrary. They may wear a FedEx uniform, their truck may say FedEx on it, and they may exclusively deliver packages for FedEx, but they are technically independent. If you look carefully at the side of their truck, you will see small fine print indicating who actually owns it, and it's not FedEx. Amazon uses a similar model with its delivery service partners, and again, the appeal for Amazon is obvious. Using drivers that aren't direct employees allows them to distance themselves from liability when things go wrong, which they do, particularly given the ridiculous pace that Amazon expects. You've probably heard all of the stories about drivers having to urinate into bottles because they didn't have time to stop. That speaks to the relentless pressure to deliver hundreds of packages per shift.
People are busting their ass driving way over the speed limit. People are running through stop signs, running through yellow lights. Everybody I knew was buckling their seatbelt behind their backs because the time it took just to buckle your seatbelt, unbuckle your seatbelt every time was enough time to get you behind schedule.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? I thought that everyone knew the only place it's absolutely fine not to have a seatbelt is, for some reason, a school bus. That is where we collectively agreed to skimp on them as a society. The kids will be fine. We'll put a little stop sign on the outside. They'll be fine. And if you think that non-stop pressure seems like an accident waiting to happen, it already has. Investigations by ProPublica and BuzzFeed found that in a 4-year window, drivers delivering Amazon packages have been involved in more than 60 crashes that led to serious injuries, including 13 deaths, or as that's more commonly known, a Bezos' dozen. But again, Amazon is basically off the hook here because these drivers are not their employees, they're independent contractors, meaning that the contractor is responsible for anything that goes wrong, not them. In fact, under Amazon's contract, they're even reportedly responsible for paying Amazon's legal bills in the event of a lawsuit, which, you know what, is actually only fair. It's not like Jeff Bezos can afford to pay all those lawyers. He's spending his money on things that truly benefit society, like launching himself into space before disappointing everyone and coming back home safely. And amazingly, I've got one more exploitative quirk of this industry to show you, and it's something called lease purchase agreements. This is a system where drivers who cannot afford their own truck are offered the chance to lease one from the company they drive for, with the promise that they'll earn enough to eventually pay it off and own it. Here is one company giving you the hard sell.
Own your future with Western Express. Find your true potential and earning power with truck ownership. Western's lease purchase program is like no other. There's no money down, no credit check, and no balloon payments. At Western Express, we deliver independence, one driver at a time.
Okay, for what it's worth, I am immediately suspicious of phrases like own your future and find your true potential. Companies with selling points like that typically leave you with nothing but debt and a closet full of leggings designed to turn your crotch into a magic eye poster. And the fact is, drivers who participate in lease-to-own agreements almost never succeed. One trucking company executive even estimated that of all the drivers entering into their lease purchase program, only around 5 to 10% actually ended up successfully taking ownership of the truck. So the odds are heavily against you. And as for the whole delivering independence part, that is the real irony here. If you are leasing a truck from the company you work for, you are now tethered to them. You are reliant on them to give you loads to earn money, which you are then paying back to them to pay off your lease on top of all the other expenses they can throw at you. This has been a common problem for both long-haul and port truckers.
Drivers until each week, they get paid each week, and it could take them until Wednesday or even Thursday before they even begin to make $100. And the reason for that is because the company charges them to use the company truck. They charge them to maintain the company truck, to buy new tires. They even charge these guys to park the company truck at the company yard overnight. They can't even take it home.
Oh, it gets worse. In one case, a company even charged contractors for using company toilet paper, all of which can lead a driver to actually owe their company money at the end of the work week. Can you imagine picking up your paycheck and finding an envelope full of negative $5 bills? You'd be absolutely furious. And yes, that is John Wilkes Booth on the negative 5, which makes sense. He cancels out a Lincoln. You know, it's like how Aaron Burr is on the negative 10 and the negative 100 features the 72-ounce steak Ben Franklin joked on while trying to win a t-shirt. Learn your history. So drivers are basically stuck here. If they stay with the company, they can end up scraping to get by, but if they leave, they risk losing the truck they've poured so much into, as most lease-to-own agreements stipulate that if the driver leaves the company, it can take back the truck, leaving the driver with nothing. It is frankly no surprise multiple trucking companies have settled over accusations brought by drivers who found their lease-to-own agreements predatory. And in fact, Western Express, the Own Your Future company, is currently awaiting court sign-off of a $15 million class action settlement right now. And I know at least one person who might be happy to hear that, because just watch this former Western Express driver talking about how she felt misled after opening a paycheck that came to, after all the company's deductions, just $293.
Mr. Papa, if I had the strength to pick this truck up and throw it straight to Mars, I would. Don't listen to those recorders, because I'm telling you, they fucking lying. This purchase here is a lie.
Yeah, and it is probably a good thing that people aren't strong enough to hurl a semi-truck to Mars. Because if they were, NASA would probably have to plan their rover missions around the constant rain of £35,000 debt traps. So what can we do here? Well, first, we should probably recognise that we have all gotten used to the idea of free next-day shipping, but crucially, someone somewhere always pays the price. Second, the work arrangements that drivers endure and the fundamental lack of value placed on their time clearly needs to be addressed. And the good news is, the Departments of Transportation and Labour are set to examine the type of predatory truck leasing arrangements that we just talked about. They also plan to study the issue of driver pay and unpaid waiting times. And hopefully they won't just study it, but actually also fucking do something about it. Because the key way to stop this so-called shortage of drivers that we've actually had for years now is to make this a job that people actually want to stay in. And until we make big changes here, the very least we can do is make our trucking reality shows a little more reflective of what life on the road for so many drivers is actually like.
Trucks, the lifeblood of America. They flow across our highways, driven by people tough enough to do one of the grittiest jobs on earth.
There's a lot of ways you can die out here.
All right, baby, we're gonna get there. From the makers of Ice Road Truckers and World's Toughest Trucker comes the realest reality show yet. Each week, watch the best drivers go up against the biggest odds, navigating tough weather, bumpy roads, and hardcore budgeting. 14 grand for the engine. Fuel. Oil change.
Don't forget the new tires.
Right. Oh yeah! These old road dogs have diesel in their blood, and they're living the American dream.
Yeah, it's kind of like being a cowboy. I'm independent, so I got my freedom. I just gotta haul what my company tells me, where they tell me, during the hours that they specify, in a truck that I pay for and do not own. But on the plus side,
there's no slowing down for these road warriors, because in the freight industry, every minute counts. Except during loading and unloading.
dang it. Come on.
Because those hours are not compensated.
Is this your card?
Yes, the show brings you all the thrills.
That's piss. That's my own piss.
All the drama.
Is this a charge for company toilet paper?
A man needs to wait. And all the romance of life on the road.
I miss my wife.
The action literally never stops.
Hey, dispatch, I'm not safe to drive right now. I'm falling asleep.
Why don't you have a drive for, why don't you pull over, lie down in the bed, curl up, and fuck yourself right in the face? Can I deal with that baby shit? Over.
Well, I'm just worried that someone could get hurt.
Oh, somebody could get hurt. I didn't realize I was talking to a drama queen. Hey, Tony, get a load of fucking air over here. To drive or not to drive? That is the question, am I right?
Yeah, whether 'tis noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune or to take arms against the sea of troubles that might oppose it and them. That's you! That's what you sound like!
You guys seem to both know a lot of Hamlet verbatim.
Get back on the fucking road!
Hell yeah! Get ready for 100% excitement, 100% adrenaline, and 100%
Well, I didn't bring the coat. Oh, shit!
And it's not just truckers. This show brings you everyone, from the drivers to the company owners.
Owners is a very strong term. And we have a much more casual relationship with our trucks. No labels. I mean, why complicate things? I'm having fun. You're having fun.
This paycheck says I owe you money?
Is that right? Booyah! Yeah. Do you have the cash?
Tune into the show that brings you as close as you can get to the trucker life without actually being one.
Okay, so yeah, neither one of us go to the dentist anymore, and you bring your own toilet paper to work.
Yeah, I just ordered a new pack from Amazon.
You what?
Trucked Up, coming to the History Channel for some reason.
lawyer everyone's talking about.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
I'm gonna brace myself against this wind.
MJF was in the back and called Officer Bart Brady.
Who's the bus driver? There are bus drivers and there are bus riders in life. KD on paper looks like the bus driver, but he's not. It's Big Kyrie. It's been Kyrie since KD followed him to Brooklyn. It's been Kyrie since Kyrie dealt with all the George Floyd issues in the team. It's been Kyrie since, and we backed him, everything happening with the pandemic. It's been Kyrie even when after the game you get swept by the Brooklyn Nets, by the Boston Celtics, and Kyrie Irving is smiling while he's hugging his former teammates. Let me tell you a shift that I saw last night to become the bus driver. Did you notice throughout the entire game, KD was being uber aggressive? By the way, every time Kyrie scored, you didn't see any of those fancy handshakes. You didn't see any of those dapping up. KD barely looked at him. There's a shift that needs to occur in Brooklyn. KD needs to be the bus driver, and I think I saw it last night for the first time, where it says, it doesn't matter what the hell happens, get out of my way. Either you're on my bus, or if you're not, get the hell off. That's what I saw.
We saw this but the relationship was better, was smoother when LeBron first got to Miami, and he didn't know exactly.